It was 6 months ago when I made a decision. After years of fighting in courtrooms and dealing with criminal cases, I left that life behind. It had been a long, exhausting decade dealing with the worst of the worst. Murder cases, fraud, and the kind of people that made you lose faith in humanity. So, I traded it all for something simpler, something real. I bought 12 acres of forest land just outside of Redmond, Washington. Moss, pine needles, and the slow hum of the wind through tall trees. It felt like a reward after all those years of being deep in the mess. I was now running my own security consultancy, installing cameras, auditing estates, making things safe again. Less stress, more trees, and fewer murder suspects. I thought I was done dealing with crazy people. I was wrong. I had no idea that the Pacific Northwest had its own breed of entitled, self-righteous types who thought the world owed them something. The house was tucked away behind a gravel driveway that snaked through the trees. There was a clearing on the south end, sloping down to a quiet pond. It was peaceful. I had already started building a pergola near the water, nothing fancy, just a place to relax and maybe run a few small archery workshops. Traditional recurve bows, none of that compound nonsense. Peaceful, therapeutic stuff. Until the day peace got slapped across the face by my neighbor, Emily Randolph. I first met her on a Tuesday. It was a crisp afternoon, the kind where the sun makes everything look like it's glowing. I was hauling treated wood from my truck to the build site when I heard leaves crunching underfoot where no one should have been walking. I turned, and there she was, mid-50s, tight blonde bob, walking down my trail like it was her right. She had a curly-haired dog trotting behind her, the leash dragging. "Afternoon," I said, wiping sweat off my brow. She barely glanced at me. "Lovely trail," she said. "Didn't even know this was back here." "That's because it's private," I replied. "I own this property." That stopped her in her tracks. She squinted at me, then smiled a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Really? I thought this land was part of the community preserve. Everyone walks here." "Not anymore," I said, pulling out my phone and showing her the property deed. "I bought it. Clean title. No HOA. You're trespassing." She sniffed, like I'd just told her I was raising wolves or something. "You've only been here 6 months. I've lived down the road for 15 years. This trail's been used for decades," she shot back. "It's practically public." "Doesn't work like that," I said, my tone calm. "This is my land now." She adjusted her windbreaker, still not fully processing what I'd said, then mumbled something about community spirit and outsiders buying up everything. I just shook my head. "We'll see what the police say," she added, with that smug, "I'm right and you're wrong" attitude. I didn't argue. "You do that," I said, and I went back to work. As she disappeared into the trees, I couldn't help but feel a familiar frustration rising in my chest. I wasn't in court anymore. I wasn't bound by the rules of Civil Lighty. I was standing on my own land. Still, I pulled out my phone and tapped the small camera I'd mounted high on a cedar tree. Motion activated, cloud-backed, and night, VY Shown. Emily had just walked into a part of my life I thought I'd left behind for good. It was a Thursday when everything started to go sideways. The sun was filtering through the canopy of trees, making the pond shimmer like it was covered in glass. I had just finished staking some new archery targets near the pergolabralap sacks filled with straw. Nothing dangerous, nothing even remotely alarming. My recurved bow was resting in its case, leaning against the cedar bench I had built. I took a moment to admire the setup, arms crossed, just enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. And that's when I heard it again. The crunch of leaves. The unmistakable sound of entitlement marching right toward me. Emily, of course. This time, she was alone. No dog, just her and a phone, lifted like a weapon. She wasn't smiling this time. In fact, her face was twisted with purpose, like she was about to deliver the most dramatic performance of her life. "There he is," she said loudly, armed and threatening. I blinked. "Excuse me." She pressed the phone to her ear, her voice suddenly taking on that theatrical tone. "Yes, I'm reporting a man in the woods with a weapon. He's threatening me." I couldn't believe it. I took a few steps toward her, slow and calm, arms by my sides. "Emily, you know exactly who I am. You know this is my land. What the hell are you trying to pull?" She took a half step back, but not from fear. "No, it was all part of the act." "Don't come near me," she snapped, still on the phone. "He's approaching." "Jesus, Emily," I said, my voice level, but the heat of anger bubbling under my skin. There's no weapon out. It's a damn bow, and it's in the case. She didn't even look at it. Instead, she continued her performance. Yes, I think he's going to shoot. I took another breath, keeping it steady, trying to control the burn that was starting to creep up my spine. You're lying to the police, Emily, I said, my voice still calm, but firm. You do realize that's a criminal offense, right? Before she could respond, I could hear the 911 dispatcher's voice crackling through her phone. Yes, there's a man in the woods with a weapon. I'm afraid for my life. I was done. I didn't need to say another word. I was going to let the cops handle it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Emily was just getting started. I stood there, waiting, watching her. I knew the police would be on their way soon enough, but what was worse, she was going to get away with this. She was going to make me the VY Lane, and no matter how much proof I had, no matter how much EVY Denke I showed, she was going to play the VY Tim. And she did. The patrol car arrived fast. As soon as it pulled in, Emily threw her phone down and waved her arms like she was leading a parade. There, that's him. Two officers stepped out, one I recognized from town, Officer Daniels, and the other, a younger guy, hung back. Sir, hands where we can see them, Daniels said, calm but firm. Of course, I said, my hands already up. Everything's recorded. Cameras on the trees. You'll want to see the footage. Daniels raised an eyebrow. You've got VY Deo? Oh yeah, I said, nodding toward the cedar with the little black dome camera tucked under a branch. 3 angles. One of her climbing over my locked gate 15 minutes ago, and 2 more showing her stage a live-action community theater show. Emily sputtered, but Daniels held up his hand. Ma'am, let us handle this. He turned to me. Do you mind if we take a look? I didn't. I handed him my tablet, and he clicked through the footage. Her voice, her actions, me calmly standing with the bow in its case. Her climbing over my gate with a no trespassing sign bolted on both sides. It was all right there, crystal clear. No interpretation needed. Daniels exhaled through his nose. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to step back. You are trespassing, and you made a false emergency report. That's when Emily's facade finally cracked. She wasn't so bold anymore. She wasn't so smug. She wasn't the one holding the cards. It was over, but I knew she wasn't going to let it go. 2 weeks later, I started seeing the signs literally. Flyers stapled to telephone poles around the neighborhood. Community access under threat. Save our trails. She was playing her game again. But this time I was ready. Eventually, it came to a head. Emily led her little group of eco-active VYSTS right onto my lawn, carrying a huge banner that read, Return the land to the people. That's when it all went down. The protesters tore up my targets, set them on fire, and before I could stop them, one of them tried to light the burlap sack with a lighter. Things escalated fast. Jeff, one of my army buddies, moved in first, but they shoved him. Then things got physical. People were swinging cameras, trying to grab my GoPro. It was chaos, but it was all on tape. It wasn't me attacking them, it was the other way around. When the cops arrived, the footage didn't lie. The truth came out, loud and clear. Emily was arrested again for false reporting, and the rest of her crew got citations. It wasn't the VY Tory I wanted, but it was the VY Tory I needed. That night, I sat by my fire, watching the last of Emily's nonsense burn to the ground. And you know what? I felt free. She wasn't going to win. Not this time. Not when I had the law on my side. The weeks passed. Things slowly went back to normal. Emily moved out. The land was mine, and I was ready to turn it into something positive. I opened the Iron Grove Archery Club, a place for people to come, relax, and learn. There were no protests, no fights, just peace. And maybe, just maybe, that's what Emily never understood. But here's the thing, Emily didn't lose just the case. She lost the narrative. She lost her ability to control the story. She tried to turn me into the VY Lane, but in the end, the truth came out. And now I'm asking you, do you think justice was served here? Was Emily's punishment fair? What would you have done in my shoes? Leave a comment below, share your thoughts, and let's get the conversation going. Because sometimes, the best thing you can do is stand your ground, even when someone tries to tear everything down. So, if you like this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for listening.